a significant academic background in nuclear physics and nuclear engineering, and I have 35 years of working in that field. I have been in and seen the operation of centrifuges at Oak Ridge, and I was the president of the company that converted the metal into bomb that took the metal from Oak Ridge and built the bombs. I hear misinformation. They're not lying. They're just, it is not accurate scientific information. And I wish I could, well, I don't have the time to rebut it, but it is very frustrating. But that's beside the point. As to what I said yesterday, I was in a doctor's office. I heard your critique. I heard a few people, not many, and then I had to consult with the doctor. Basically, my purpose in speaking and the message I wanted to convey was the title of the email that I sent you, Gary, which was negativity. Too much of it, too bitter on both sides. It's the great divide, and I've had that theme in this room ever since I've been in this room for several years. We've got to be able to do something about it. Trump you cannot rely on what Trump says. Whether that's good or bad, you cannot rely on what Trump says. But you can rely on what he does. Last Saturday, we launched a surprise attack that we've had the ability, we've started working on being able to do that in 2009. And the Pentagon has had a team that has been head down and ass up figuring out how to do that kind of attack for the last 15 years. And so this is not something we just created out of cold. This is an capability that we've been working on for a very long time. Okay. He launched that attack. No president has had the opportunity, the courage, the wisdom, the guts, or whatever to attempt to remove what was certainly a looming existential threat to Israel and a huge threat to the rest of the world. That's something that happened last Saturday. The concern about the lack of acknowledgement of the professionalism of the strike, it just was not mentioned, not only in this room, other than by me, but in a broad spectrum across the military, across the national press. And I believe Trump, and I said it yesterday in the room, that he called the pilots, and they were upset, concerned, furious. They collectively felt that after pulling off one of the most professional military operations that I've seen in my lifetime, after pulling it off, what they heard was, nanny, boo-boo, you didn't do what you wanted to, you didn't do what you missed, you only degraded it for 3 months. It was highly critical of the attack. They're not blaming the pilots, but they were highly critical of a military operation. And when you get that in the public arena, the military personnel that are participating in that kind of thing they feel like the soldiers that came home from Vietnam having lost the war, or the soldiers that came home from Afghanistan having lost the war. But the other thing that happened, and we haven't spoken about it in this room yet, and very little of it in the national press. Every NATO country, forget Iran, every NATO country, for the first time since I've ever heard of it, except Spain, has now signed up to do 5% for defense spending. Is that not a huge and encouraging and proper decision for the safety of Europe and the Western civilization? And do you think it would have happened without Trump having been pushing them in that direction? So I just want people to sometimes take a step back and say, I don't like Trump, but I want our president to succeed. And of course, everybody in this room is going to say, yeah, we want the president to succeed. But there are a lot of people that hate Trump so much they don't want to see him succeed. And they, in doing so, if Trump doesn't succeed, our nation doesn't succeed. So let's back off on the continuous, unending strife, criticism. Say, this one you got right, Mr. President, or you at least got it partially right, and we'll have to wait and see if you got it completely right. Thank you for what you did. Now let's critique and argue and talk about what's next. That's what I was trying to say yesterday, and I maintain that same encouragement, strongly stated, to get off of this constant negativity from both sides and occasionally step back and say Biden got it right or Trump got it right. Now let's move on to the next problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Anson. I'm not sure seeking accurate information is necessarily negativism, but I could see how some people might think so.
Seeking accurate information can be done without calling Trump a liar or being delusional.
Jared, let us look at it. Yeah, this my friend Anson.
Your audio is substandard, Scott.
Is it better or worse? Okay. The train is less. Is that better? Or?
I can hear you, Scott.
Okay. Yeah, the blanket critique of negativity always serves the establishment, right? In the 18th century, if we had a blanket critique of negativity, that would have always served the Tories, right? It always serves establishment, authoritarian, corporate interests. So that's the blanket critique of negativity always serves the better. And I think we're in it at liberal democracy. I mean, the idea, like, when we're saying that, I've said, I think that it's not a bad thing that we hit Iran. I've been very critical of Biden. So I don't know. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say in this forum that it's a good thing that we've set Iran back. I mean, two things can be true. That can be a good thing, and Trump can be somebody that can't start a day without prevaricating. I mean, these things can both be true.
I think that the same was said of some of the commentary from this very stage about Biden. Why are you so negative? Biden is a great guy. He's doing this, he's doing that. Why do you keep bringing up his apparent degrading of his mental capacity? I recall somebody probably admonishing me for suggesting that he shuffled off the stage one day, which he did. That was being negative, and I had no right to do that, and it takes away from all the good things that he is doing. And why are you focusing on that? Well, I said it because he shuffled off the stage. His shuffling off the stage is not necessarily an indication that he can't do the job. Oh yeah, look, he rides a bicycle. You never find Donald Trump ride a bicycle. He's far more fit than Donald Trump. Why did you say he shuffled off the stage? I got pretty strongly criticized for just stating a fact. He has a arthritic condition in his spine, which caused him to shuffle off the stage. there's always going to be people who are critical of critique. It's just a reality. Folks, we're here Monday through Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. New York time. So till 5 p.m. New York time on tomorrow. For the next edition of the Critical Thinking Forum, everybody be safe, be well, and peace out.
It has nothing to do with their iPads. It has everything to do with with the fact that a lot of them went home to illiterate parents. A lot of those kids went home to parents who also could not read. A lot of those kids went home to parents who could not help them with their homework, who did not have proper Wi-Fi, who did not understand how to use technology to help those kids. So it is a slew of people that we are going to have to deal with. If they're probably fucked up. But however, they do know how to use AI because they're taught how to do that. And that's just where I'm at with it.
Because I work in a school district. Your school district, what curriculum do they use to teach AI?
You said what?
Yeah, I said I work in a school district. So what in your school district that you work in or you live in or you buy into, you go to PTA meetings, PTO meetings, you go to parent teacher nights or something. What curriculum are they using for AI? Because you said they teach it.
So no, I didn't say that they. What I said was, this is the same. This is so. Wait. So what I'm saying is that I'm trying to answer your question.
No, you don't. No, you're not.
Let
him finish. Just let him finish. Now, go ahead. What's wrong with that?
All right.
Because what is your response going to be at this point?
How are you going to respond to something that you don't know? You asked me a question, I tried to answer, and then you told me no. That don't make sense. Now, no, I am not someone who has children. I am not active in school in the K through 12 educational system right now. However, I do know that as a person who grew up in technology and grew up in the technology age, a lot of the stuff that I know personally had nothing to do with what I learned in school. School is for the very basic function, right? A lot of that, and even when I was in school, we were coding for MySpace, switching out bold text and shit, and that came from the colloquial learning that we did as kids, as well as what we had on top in school. And that is what is happening. These kids understand how to use AI a lot better than we do, and the reason why is because they are having conversations about a bunch of stuff that we are not having those conversations about. They're on the new thing every time something new comes out, and oftentimes every generation loses that knowledge, every generation loses that interest, and things just miss a generation, and that's what's going to happen with AI.
Okay, thank you. Are you complete? So you're telling me that you haven't been in a school since MySpace?
No, that's not what I'm.
Hold on. Even if I'm just trying to figure out what's the issue.
Because what he's positing is that schools are teaching these things, and it's not true. What he's positing is that kids are getting this somewhat language learning model, but then he's also saying that school's not for that. And then he's also saying, but the kids know, but then he's also saying if they were in COVID, they're fucked.
So I'm a little confused too, because didn't you just say when I was saying, well, when do you need AI in third grade? You said, well, it's already here. So what are you talking about?
It is already here.
What? It is.
So, Jordan, your name is not Mr. Nolan.
Hold on, Jordan. I just want to be clear because before you got here, we were having a conversation. You alluded to AI absolutely being a resource and all that stuff. So I'm a little confused. What are we talking about?
So like I said, in the educational space, when I'm talking about brain development, emotional development, cognitive brain development, I don't think, me personally, that AI is helpful. I think it's more harmful than it is helpful because it takes away the critical thinking that one would have to do if they weren't.
In relationship to what he was saying that I was just saying you clear up what you were saying when you're saying that he's saying that it's not in I don't know, I feel like you're trying to prove that it's not
so
in
what he
schools
just
or something
said,
along those lines, but I thought that you also acknowledged that they were in, that it was already, what you mean when you said it was already here?
So once again, Hannah, when he said that it's being taught in schools, and if it's not being utilized, then there's teachers and stuff that are teaching these things. That's when I came off my mic and said, what curriculum are they teaching, and where are they teaching these things? Because they don't. That's not the way it shows up in schools. How it shows up in schools is that the kids get laptops and they get computers and they get things that are embedded with AI, right? They then are using those tools. However, AI is not subjective. So, for example, as Jordan said, we used to use Google and MySpace. Google is not a subjective source. We know that. It's not a scholarly source. If you Google something in China around revolution, you're going to get a very different answer than other places. So what I'm referring to is it actually doesn't help critical thinking. It actually hinders critical thinking. And
that's not, hold on, back up. You're going further past the point of it all. You're trying to tell him that it's not in the educational system or whatever.
No, I didn't say that.
Class it was going to be, but you then hold on, Jordan, but you then conceded to saying that they were provided this, and this. Is it a specific class or is it provided to the schools and the teachers? I'm kind of confused still.
I'm going to say it
again. I'm confused as to why you have an issue with this answer if that's what you said.
Yes, because I'm going to say it again, Jordan. Your name is, once again, not Mr. No One.
Hold on, Jordan. I'm trying to understand something for myself.
Yeah, so the statement that I'm going to make is, I'm going to say it again. ChatGPT is not being taught to be an effective or productive tool for our students. It is actually hindering them, and it's underutilized.
I understand. Let's get off the hindering part. So, but it is being provided, correct?
I have said that. It's been in schools. That's what I said.
Okay. So it is. Is it in any particular class, Mr. No One? Any particular curriculum?
Oh, damn, I gotta go.
In all of your core curriculums.
I'm sorry?
In all of the core curriculums. It is
in all of the core curriculums. All right.
Because the way that the programs are being run on your computer, it doesn't matter the subject. It matters the way that it's being delivered. It's not being delivered through books. It's being delivered through their iPads, through certain programs and certain learning curriculums. That's how it's showing up.
If they have an issue with it, if it's not working,
what is going on?
I don't know. Stop. Pause the conversation, please. Lord have mercy.
Pause that stuff and ask you. AI is
Stop, please.
We got AI out here.
Please get this track ass nigga off the stage.
I'll learn a whole curriculum in 4 hours.
I have to remove them.
Okay. There, Mac. Or Nate, or whatever. Goodness.
Hold on, let me try to switch this back.
I got it.
No.
Hold your horses. Damn. This is where you guys left off. EP stopped Jordan. Where the fuck is Jordan? Because he had some pushback for Jordan. At this point, do you remember specifically in one bullet only, what was your pushback for Jordan?
Jordan said that AI is being taught to be productive and effective in K through 12 school, and I disagree with that.
Can I respond or no?
Stop.
Can I respond or is Panda respond?
Wait, Jordan, trust me, I got you too.
My question to you, Jordan, is did you say that?
That is what I said, and I would like to provide and continue on with the conversation.
Okay, hold on. One step at a time. Trust me. 1 step at a time.
Of course you guys. So yes. Okay. So you did say that, and then Mr. No One's ask was, "Hey, do you work in the schools? No, you don't work in the schools. And what you're going to do is tell him how you know that it is in the school or being taught how." They're teaching them how to use AI in the schools. Let's just do that in a straightforward, direct.
Yeah, are you a part of PTA, this, that, parent, teacher, yada, yada? Are you
actually just let him do it?
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to get there.
Okay, story we all have. Go ahead.
So, and this is very direct because you asked me about my schooling. Since I was in school, we've been learning through artificial intelligence in the way I'm providing ways. Because while I was in school, I learned how to use Microsoft Excel. I also learned how to use Papers by Apple, I learned how to use a Keynote from Apple. Those are all AI tools being taught to students, right? Continuing on through Microsoft Excel isn't artificial intelligence, it's
technology.
Hold on, stop. T, you took us back just a touch. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I forgot to, because we were not there, okay? I'm sorry, we just weren't. So here's what happened. He asked him, what curriculum were they being taught in, yada, yada. I stopped Noah and said, didn't you mention that these things are all, when we were talking about, it being given to illiterate third graders, and I said, well, then don't give AI to, don't
side branch. I understand that.
give it to the illiterate third graders, and then he says, well, it's already there. So then he's basically asking, you didn't realize that he's basically asking Jordan the exact same question that he.
I understand that's what you branched off into. If Jordan would hurry the fuck up saying that he did not get, then he doesn't know. But in school, when he was young, they taught such and such and such, which he thinks are AI tools, but they're not. So he misunderstands something. He has no fucking clue. Miss EP said, hey, where are they doing that? And of course, we're not talking back in Jordan's day.
but even
So
still
now
now, kids are learning.
now we're taking time to listen to Jordan's day when Jordan's talking about shit that's not
No,
AI in the first place. So then after I don't know how much time was gonna let that happen, we would migrate into your gripe, which is, hey, when we were talking, you said they weren't teaching it in schools. So EP, what?
So my point is, why do you have to push back for Jordan? No. You're not listening too. EP, why did you have pushback for Jordan so hard? That's just a question.
Jordan said something that was inaccurate.
What was the
Jordan said the same shit you said. It's being taught in schools.
That's the point. It's being taught in schools. You said it. He said it. That's why I was confused as to why you were pushing back on Jordan.
Panda, I said it's in schools. I didn't say it's being taught. Jordan specifically said this. He had a whole conversation. He said, and if the kids are underutilizing Chat GPT and these AI tools, then there's a teacher, there's somebody there that's going to teach them that. And I told him, no, it's not.
The person who I pointed to were peers.
Once again, your name is still not Mr. No One.
But you're not acknowledging the person who I pointed to were peers.
Your name is still not Mr. No One.
All right,
Please,
so the person that he was pointing to were peers.
That was
Keep that in mind. Keep in mind the person that he was pointing to were peers. Just go ahead.
Good, gotcha. Well, all I'm saying is this. Bottom line is, it is in schools. It's being underutilized, and it's having a net negative effect rather than net positive effect. That's my whole point.
We already understood your point.
And also Jordan said it was being taught in schools, and I said it's not being taught. He said if they're underutilizing, there's teachers that'll teach them that. And I'm telling him, no, that's
He
not
didn't
true.
speak to the underutilization point.
He did say that. He said if the kids are not being taught effectively how to use AI and other tools, then there's a teacher, then there's somewhere that can show them that. And I told him, no, that's
Jordan, did you speak about underutilization?
What curriculum is he referring to when he said that? Because it's not being taught like that. It's not.
Jordan, did you speak to underutilization?
That's not what I said.
Okay, thought so.
I also mentioned that peer learning is a lot of how
Yep, they are.
I also said how peer learning is a part of how kids get to learn how to use technology, because a lot of the people who teach us about the shit that is in our generation are actually peers and not our elders.
Okay, cool. Jordan, thank you. Thank you for your statement.
And yes, AI is being taught in schools in ways that our classes, kids are being taught how to use Adobe Photoshop and use the AI tools. If they're not using the AI tools in Photoshop to edit photos.
Photoshop is not an AI program. So Jordan, so now he's going back to what he originally said, which it is being taught in schools, which it's not.
Is that not?
Here's the thing. He's saying that like Adobe Photoshop and all and those different applications are in schools, and there's AI, and they're AI powered, or components of them have, or there's AI integrated in certain components at least. So how it's being taught in schools, don't really know. Maybe by default, I don't know the ins and outs of those programs. I don't know if we need to add some specifics to this conversation. When we say AI is being taught in schools, what exactly do we mean? Something more like a generative chat, like like GPT, OpenAI, ChatGPT, or are we talking about just AI, the versus AI period, and using those tools and navigating?
Because the kids are learning through artificial intelligence. And that is why I'm very specific about like when using Microsoft Office, a lot of those things have AI tools in them. So kids, we have been learning through artificial intelligence for a really long time. So it's intellectually dishonest to say that it's a downfall for society.
Jordan,
I just
our
got
kids
an
using Microsoft Office
ain't
now.
got no kids or be in the school system, so
Yeah, like
I feel like we can't comment on that because, bro, you ain't got no kids, you not involved in school. That's just my 2 cents I gotta add while y'all keep repeating the same talking points for the past 20 minutes again. But I just think if you don't have a kid, you don't go to PTA, then you really just talking from your emotion. You have no facts to prove that. And I'm not saying you wrong. You could be right. But I'm just saying, the guy said he works in the school system. You don't even have a kid or partake in it. Can we please dead this? Like, can y'all just stop? Like, come on now. Like, for sure, we done heard it all.
No, yeah, exactly. I was about to next, move on. Thanks, Kobe, but no thanks. Sorry. The thing is that you don't have to be up in no environment or whatever. If he's speaking off of what he knows, his perspective, whatever, he can give it if he wants to. Okay? A lot of you niggas speak on females and y'all ain't never been a female before. Ain't that funny? Now let's move on. Okay?
Yeah, let me ask a couple questions. So, what the fuck? Mr. No One, say kids are being taught through AI. I think it's using AI to learn or something like that. Is that the case? That's the baseline of this discussion, at least the discussion at this point. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I know it's just a little skeletal kind of thing. And when you're describing that, what does that look like? Is that with ChatGPT as a tool next to you while you're learning, or what are we talking about what are we talking about there? So, am I tracking ChatGPT in school?
I'm saying it has a net negative effect.
I know I'm not talking about your points. I'm just talking about what has net negative. ChatGPT usage or AI is so much shit. That's why we're getting okay, fine. So then Jordan says, hey, there's AI features within these other tools, so they are learning through AI, and I think that's a fucking stretch like a motherfucker. I for the life of me, you know. So do you understand? So that's the issue there. He's talking about ChatGPT and its usage by school children and how that's detrimental to some level. And then Jordan saying, well, it's been around because there's some AI features within it now. Jesus Christ. And this is what happens when y'all are bulleted, right? In their responses. Because now we're going to sit here and filter through all that shit to figure out what your points are. And when there's confusion, it's like that, you know, we done drown in the bullshit, but not the bullshit, but just the extra shit. If we can try to be punchy, to the point, bullet to bullet, maybe a bullet at a time, you know, that'll be better, you know. So I don't even know. My only thing I'm thinking about is like, damn, how possible is it for people like me? I don't know how possible it is for people to switch their whole fucking style up, but like at least try. Panda.
Yeah.
Anything left here?
There's as far as in education, I think.
Oh yes, that's really EP's point, which is it's a hindrance when you have kids that aren't that are still learning their foundational schools and using AI. Or it's a hindrance. So he's pointing at something there. He's pointing at like AI's usage for people whose foundational skills are weak at this point, or just weak, period. Okay. So then what he should do, I'm hoping he would do, is point to how that looks different. So here's something. Someone whose skills are, you know, who has a strong foundation using AI, right? What that looks like versus someone who has a weak foundation. We put the kids in that category. Okay. I mean, I can answer for you, but I think that would be its overall point there. So unless you want to just land on it's a hindrance and then just have everybody imagine how it is, or maybe type it into their AI, figure it out for themselves, you know. But at some point, we got to button this shit up so we can.
He thinks it's a hindrance in the education system. I just
in the education to the kids, it's a hindrance to the
kids. Yeah.
Right. So the education incorporating or allowing that is a hindrance to the kids. And it's, I mean, that's a hindrance to anybody, anybody, right? Whether it's a kid who has a weak foundation or anybody who's just fucking uneducated, right? And I'm just going to use that just broadly or whatever. Yeah, shit. A lot of shit is fucking hindrance, you know? Especially when you're using a tool, you may be over reliant on the fucking tool. You're not going to pick up on, you're not going to understand what things require more context. You're reading some shit, it's the end all be all.
I agree, those all become
words.
words.
Context or shit that's maybe a hallucination, is incorrect, period, you know? You're going to miss shit, right? Now, I'm not saying I don't know if that's a hindrance, but think about it. Somebody missing shit. Yeah, there's risk that come with it, you know? And that you be depending on shit that you may not fully understand, and your ability to identify and, you know, or at least gauge, you know, your aptitude, right? Or your proficiency in whatever you looked up, you know, that meter's going to be off, right? Because you're uneducated or you don't have a foundation to know, like, okay, yeah, I looked this up, and this is how I should be considering this information as opposed to over relying on it or Benjamin Dunning-Kruger shit going on. I think somebody who has a strong foundation is going to have the ability to pick up on, you know, whether or not something requires more context or nuance, you know, shit like that.
So the question would be now, are we outsourcing to not even just kids? Are we, everybody, outsourcing too much of their memory and problem solving to AI?
Memory and problem solving. Oh yeah, too much of their memory.
And problems. So there's just the problem solving. Are we outsourcing too much of our problem solving to AI?
Problem solving to AI. You know, and that's an interesting one, right? Because it's like, look, like, yeah, some people can, right? When they punch it in, get an answer, and boom, it's really not much fired off there, you know, in and out. But so I can say yes, and for anybody, foundation or not, yeah, I can say yeah. But at the same time, people are